In Bingo Hell, a group of badass elders, led by the fearless Lupita, refuse to be gentrified in their barrio in Oak Springs. Lupita is trying her hardest to keep the community together, but the nefarious Mr. Big threatens this as he turns their bingo hall into a bingo hell. The film's now available to stream on Amazon Prime Video as part of this year's Welcome to Blumhouse lineup. This interview is part of my continued coverage of the film for my podcast, The Filmcraziest Show. For this episode, I spoke with Shane McKenzie, who co-writes the teleplay for the film. So let's get right into that conversation. Hi, Shane. How's it going?
How's it going, man?
Good. So you co-write Bingo Hell.
Yes.
I'd be curious to start with just how did you come on board this film?
It was the idea came from an outing to a bingo hall with my mother-in-law. And Gigi and I have been working together for about 7 years. And so we're always kind of trying to find the next thing we're going to do. And when I told her I wanted to do a horror story in a bingo hall starring older minority characters as our leads and heroes, that was all she needed to hear. It was on after that.
What happened at that bingo hall that inspired it?
A lot of people died. Really, I was just fascinated by how seriously it was taken by the people that were there. And it's this whole culture of its own. These older folks who, their families are growing older and living their own lives. And they're just kind of, there in their neighborhood together. And it's like their community center. They took it real seriously. And to be in there and kind of ready to have fun and play this game, and for them to get very annoyed with me because I wouldn't just play and just be quiet. It was just so fascinating to me. And, all the different good luck charms they bring, like ornate crosses and pictures of black and white pictures of family, and they're constantly rubbing them for good luck. It was just like my horror brain was spinning. There's so much potential here.
I find that fascinating that you went there and you thought horror and not comedy.
Yes. Now my that's a good point. Typically I go straight to horror, but I always add comedy too. I mean, that's what I love about these characters is when they're interacting with each other, you really feel that history, and just the way they talk to each other is really funny to me. Just hang out with your grandparents and just start asking questions. You're going to be laughing for sure.
Okay. That's awesome. I think I've only ever gone to one bingo event with my grandparents. So I'll have that was a while ago.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny to me how as we're doing this, I keep hearing, more stories like that. Just I went to the bingo hall with my grandparents or my mom and had to just sit there for hours and hours, eat bags of Fritos until they're finally finished.
I'm glad you turned it into a bingo hell.
Yes. It was so much fun to do, man. Just being inspired by what I saw, but then once we decided to have the older characters be our leads and to be our heroes, it started to get real personal. Gigi and I, a lot of it's based on our families.
Okay. Was that ever emotional, or was that just kind of I'm just gonna?
It got emotional. Mostly emotional. Just thinking about this from their perspective.
Okay.
What it must be like to, living in this world of change all around them, and they're at this kind of later stage in life where they're, kind of maybe a little stubborn, kind of set in their ways, resistant to change. They've lived in this house their whole life, in this neighborhood with these friends their whole life. And, suddenly they don't see their kids that much. And, just how crazy it must be for everything you've ever known to just change. And it's one thing for it to be, like we said, family, but when gentrification comes into the mix and it just starts taking over everything they've ever known and turning it into something else that they can't even recognize, that was, that got emotional just imagining that from their perspective, and then talking to
Okay.
our grandparents and mother-in-law and just asking them about their experiences and seeing that gleam in their eye as they talk about bingo hall so passionately, and then the growl in their voice when they start talking about family.
I love that that's kind of one of the reasons I love horror, that you can have such a heart in it. And
Yep.
just because at this film's core, it is really is about family.
Mm-hmm.
So is that kind of what you hope people take from it?
Yeah, yeah. And the idea that just because the things around us are changing that we can't control, we can still, as long as we have our family, then, no matter what happens, we have that backbone. It was very much, and whether the family is blood family or a family that you created,
Okay.
if you stick together, you can get through anything, which was proven during the filming of this movie.
Oh, really?
Because we had COVID, and then a crazy winter storm blew through in the middle of it, and just all the challenges that came. All of us making it very much it becomes a family, and just
Oh,
working through all the challenges, and so yeah, it was kind of a parallel as we're making it.
interesting. So that blizzard is pretty much Mr. Big.
Yes, yes, a blizzard just thick with COVID.
Now, I think introductions are so important in a film. So I'd love it if you could talk about just how you wrote that scene when we first meet Mr. Big.
Yes, with a lot of iterations for that scene. For me, I like to think about how we meet Willy Wonka in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Just that mysterious. You see the candy factory behind him, and before you even meet him, everyone's talking about him. There's all this mystery, and then when you see him, just that the way he misdirects everyone, uh, and he looks like this like decrepit old man, and then he does like a roll, and it's like this. He's a showman. It's like a game show host almost, and
Sure.
so we didn't want Mr. Big when we first see him for him to just be kind of like welcome to the bingo hall. We needed that mystery. Everyone walks in and they're like, what the fuck is this? And totally confused. It's not the bingo hall they're used to. It's super flashy. And then when he shows up, he just matches that setting and kind of represents everything Lupita has been trying to keep out of her neighborhood. And
Okay.
so to have that big smile, which if I'm looking for a big smile, there's no one better than Richard Brake, honestly. And yeah, it was very, very much Willy Wonka, game show host, and just that feeling of confusion, and then almost being misled to focus on the spectacle of it and kind of forget that wait, this used to be like ours. Now they're
Okay.
just kind of dazzled, and so it needed to be big.
And the set design looks great.
Oh my god! And I had nothing to do with that. So when I was watching the dailies, I was freaking out. Like, oh, that's perfect.
Oh, that's awesome.
They did such a
Now,
good job with that.
right? I thought so. Now with Richard Brake, like who did you have anyone in mind when you were writing the character of Mr. Big?
I guess kind of in my head, he was almost like a cartoon character. So I
Okay.
wasn't even imagining an actor. I was just imagining this kind of tall, thin, someone that even when they smile at you, you can just tell that they want to bite into your head like an apple. Just and so in my mind, I'm thinking, he represents. He's a metaphor for Lupita's fears and everything that she's again, fought to keep out of her neighborhood. And so in my head, yeah, it was more almost like a comic book character. And then when we started looking at actors and Richard Brake's name came up, that was it. Mr. Big is Richard Brake at this point in my head.
When you brought him on, is that what made you guys want to use the smile a lot more?
Yes. Now there is a lot of smiling in the script, and I tried to use synonyms as much as I could. He grinned sometimes, but no, you know what? I got to say, it was like that in the script the whole time. Now, once they had Richard Brake on set, I'm sure it was like, okay, give us a little more of that. It was so much fun to watch the Richard Brake dailies. So much fun. You literally could be like, okay, now let's do a weird one, and they just let him go nuts.
Okay, come on, Richard, give us a smile now.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love the contrast of just like the good and evil, just especially in that scene when Lupita's scowling at the camera, and then Richard Brake is just like, yeah, this is going down. I love that scene.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of juxtaposition between good and evil, young and old, and we try to do that through the whole thing. And even with, you have Caleb's character that kind of represents the new generation, and then Eric is kind of the middle, and then you have all these older folks.
Okay.
And really, even just the old bingo hall compared to the new bingo hall, very, very much trying to choose juxtaposition to emphasize Mr. Big's influence.
Oh, what inspired the green ooze?
What inspired the green ooze originally was, I'm a horror nerd, and there's not enough slime in horror movies anymore. So, and when Gigi and I were talking through it, I was just kind of like, the money isn't real. He's not giving money to these people, because then it's just money. So it has to be this representation of what getting that money would mean to them. But underneath it all, it's just useless slime, and just the idea that it turns to green slime. It's just very old school, but it really represents the real uselessness of money when it really comes down to it. It's the thing that you think's gonna fix everything, and then when you have it, it didn't fix a goddamn thing. It's useless. It's just what people think is gonna fix it. And so for it to, once they get it, to turn into slime, to me was really cool, because I like slime, but also very, very meaningful.
Okay. See, I just thought like you probably saw a couple times when you were a kid, right? On everybody getting slimed.
Yes. You called it Uh-oh? Is it a Nickelodeon show?
Yeah.
I think when I was growing up, it was called Wild and Crazy Kids. I could be wrong about that though.
Okay.
Yeah, so never heard of
Canada.
Uh-oh. So there you go. Okay.
Yeah, I'm the weird Canadian, so that's why.
Hey, everyone I worked with on this movie is Canadian.
Oh, really? I just offended half the cast.
And Gigi is Canadian. Rainer, our producer, is Canadian.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I'm used to your strange alternate things like Uh-oh.
I'm surprised you hadn't heard about Oh then.
Yeah, it's never come up.
Oh, well. Then.
But we had our Nickelodeon slime. So and yes, that's absolutely. When I think green slime, I think that.
Okay. I think this is my last one, but how did you create it? Like, what's the consistency of the slime?
I didn't.
Oh, okay.
All I did was described it, and then the effects people took it from there. Oh, and it was some pretty nasty thick shit. Again, watching the dailies was really funny, because there would be a cut, and then you'd hear Gigi's voice, more slime, more slime, more slime, more slime. You see this hand come into view and just paint slime all over everything. It was wonderful.
Oh, that's so fun. I'm pretty sure that was my time. So Shane McKenzie, Thank you for chatting with me on the Filmcraziest show about your film Bingo Hell.
Thank you, man. Good to talk to you.
Awesome. Yeah, nice meeting you.